What up, though? We have the opportunity of Alex English, the great Alex English, NBA Hall of Famer, being able to be. We have the opportunity of the great Hall of Famer, NBA Hall of Famer, Alex English, joining us live virtual conversation Tuesday, August 12th, 2025. But in preparation for this amazing endeavor that's going to be hosted on CCC Elevate U platform, we wanted to do the research and help people in regards to growth. So over this past weekend, created an actual course, Launch Your AI webinar like a billionaire. And the Voice of Victory series is our live virtual conversations that we host every single Tuesday live at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, in which we will actually help and talk and have real conversations and real discussions around the growth and process of change. That's the AI cash story method. So who we're going to actually discuss here today is a gentleman that by the name of Jason Fladlien. And the course is based off of the $100 million webinar formula. And in this formula are the 14 webinar steps that made Jason Fladlien a multi-millionaire. So when doing the research here today and was going through the process of, getting everything prepared to send the follow-up email to Alex English and his team, I went ahead and went through the process of checking out, clicking the link on the video that I based the actual course off of. And I was like, well, instead of keeping all this information to myself, I'm going to go live and be able to provide this information to my audience so they can see the step-by-step process, because Adrian Mays, the AI cash story captain, is in the game with you. And so in making the decision to have webinars be the one-to-many opportunity to have things growing, I wanted to show people the why behind Jason Fladlien. And so watching that 14 webinar step framework, having that be able to be the basis of live virtual conversations moving forward, Jason Fladlien has made over $500 million in sales with webinars. He's consulted on some of the biggest marketing launches on the planet. He's set a few world records himself. He's influenced just about every marketing launch that uses webinars. And he has a formula that he gives you virtually for free. And it's called his forklift of his best webinars and how to install them now for instant process. So I was watching this morning, Jason Fladlien being the greatest of all time, the GOAT in webinars, and has made, like I said, over $500 million in sales with his webinars, helping some of the biggest names. And he has a forklift approach to bypass over a decade of webinar mastery, plus many hours, days, or even months of creation time, so you can fill in the blank your way to success. The law of vital few that turns your webinar into an ultra profit magnet, drawing out most aligned customers who are desperate to throw thousands of dollars your way, and costly mistakes that people make in the first 5 minutes of the webinar that make your listeners run for the hills, close your webinar, unscribe from your list, and never utter your name again, not even as a cautionary tale. So when I was going through the process of setting up and getting started to set up the webinar for Coach Alex English coming in tomorrow. So, in the CCC Elevate U platform, I paused and I was like, you know what? Let's go ahead and watch this together. Instead of me doing the watch by myself, I wanted to bring how I'm getting to the process with you all. So I went ahead and clicked the link, and so he has the next step of a registration, and you fill out the registration. I've already registered, but I will do it again just so I can have this for live purposes, which is the steps that you do in order when you have a webinar, and that's why I wanted to showcase this live. You enter your information, which leads to your providing the email address and allows you to have your email address of people that are interested in webinars. So Jason Fladlien will now see that Adrian Mays with CCC Elevate U is interested in his actual process, and he has a company, Rapid Crush. So when you click submit, he now has my email. That's him ownership, right? And so then this screen pops up, and I started to watch this screen. And I'm doing this with you guys live so we can watch it together. So Jason Fladlien, the basis of the AI course that I'm actually going to provide, like the Clip Note version and breakdown and videos like this will be included in that course. And in that investment, you're being able to have a multi-millionaire to listen to, millions from webinars. So we're going to listen together.
Jason Fladlien here. I'm going to start out this presentation today in a weird sort of way that you've never seen before. What I'm going to do is I'm going to admit all the flaws, all the issues, all the challenges, and all the problems with webinars. And for a sales pitch, this is going to seem like the worst sales pitch that you've ever heard in your life. You're going to be confused. You're going to be shocked. You might even be concerned for my sanity. Yeah, before you know it, I will have set a net around you that you were unaware of, what I call a buyer's net. I will have captured you. And if you are a person who wants to get rich and also enrich the world, then you will have no other choice but to buy what I'm selling you at the end of this little presentation that we're going to do here together today. See, I'm doing a webinar to sell you on webinars. I'm telling you this is kind of like the worst possible type of webinar to do, because what you're going to do is you're going to judge me on how I deliver the webinar in addition to the contents of the webinar itself. Children, do not try this particular webinar out at home. If you want to model any of my webinars, choose one of these instead. They'll be way easier for you to create and they'll be more profitable. This webinar today is me working 10 times harder for my money than I have to. I could just do a normal paint by the numbers style of webinar, but that ain't what I'm going to do here today. What I'm going to do here today is set the record straight once and for all, because there's a lot of these other so-called webinar experts out there, and quite frankly, they are pissing me off. They are giving the wrong advice. They are giving dangerous advice. And they're doing this either because they're too dumb to know better, or worse, they're too greedy to care. What I'm doing here today is selling you hard on webinars. And to do that, I must confess, webinars are hard. Webinars are very hard. You got to teach people stuff, and you got to sell people stuff. And most people can't even walk and chew bubble gum at the same time, much less teach and sell. When you add to that the tech, and then the slides, and then the software, and then the web pages to create, and then the emails to send out, and maybe you want to throw in some fancy text message marketing on top of that, and then decide whether you're going to do it live, where you must public speak in front of an audience that can hate on you in real time, or maybe you automate it instead, which is weird and awkward because you're like pretending to talk to an audience that isn't there. I'm telling you, gone are the days of this easy webinar money where you could just show up, practically half drunk, have a couple slides, and people will be so excited to attend because they're like, oh, cool, it's an online seminar. I can't wait to show up to that thing. Here's what it looks like these days. These days, the user has a choice between you and dozens of other webinars, and users are very smart. Attendees know the deal. You ain't just training out of the goodness of your own heart. You're looking to make some money. So this is what it looks like today, doing webinars. And when you throw in stuff like TikTok and Instagram Reels and YouTube Shorts, making the world's attention that of a goldfish, then yeah, I told you. I got myself an uphill battle here today to sell you on doing webinars for yourself and your business. But you know what? I am up for the challenge, because if I can break through these limits, then I can help you get the biggest breakthrough in your business that you've ever seen. Listen, for the last 16 years that I've been doing webinars, I've been looking for something easier. I've been wishing that I could retire from webinars, wishing that I could delete the keynote and the PowerPoint and the Google Slides, wishing I never even have to say the word webinar again, yet here I still am 200 plus unique webinar presentations later, going at it stronger than ever. And the question is why? And you know the answer. What's the answer? The answer is this: nothing beats a webinar as long as you do them right. Now, my company, Rapid Crush, we hold the record for the biggest launch in the internet marketing business space, when we went from idea to $57.9 million in sales in 226 days. And what do you think was at the center of this launch? And the answer is a webinar. So if you have a product or a service that you want to sell more of, if that's you, congratulations. A webinar just plain makes the most sense to sell that product or that service. Now, you say to me, Jason, I don't have a product yet. Well, fair enough. I turn your attention then to this. This, what you see on your screen, is the record for the biggest affiliate commission during the launch in our space. $9.8 million in 8 days. And this is not my product. This is somebody else's product that I promoted as an affiliate. And what do you think I used to promote this product? I used a webinar. Now, second place during this promotion did pretty good. They did almost $2 million. Another way to look at it is they came in second. They were $7.9 million behind us. And one of us used a webinar and one of us did not. And of course, you know who used the webinar. But that's me. How about the biggest launch so far to date in 2024? That was Mastermind.com's launch with Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins. And at the heart of that launch was a webinar. And I know this because they paid me $50,000, 2 days of consulting, to help them shape and position and perform that webinar. And the biggest business event last year was Alex Hormozi's book launch, where he sold something insane like 250,000 books in 45 minutes. People aren't aware of this, but the way he sold those books was with a webinar. And I know that to be true because he paid me a day's of consulting, $25,000, to help him with his webinar. He said, Jason, that's great. It works for you and it works for business people. How about people outside of the business space, though? Fair enough. I hear you. So my client, Jeremy, for example, he teaches trumpet players how to play the trumpet better to the tune of $5,000 for his coaching program. High ticket 5K sell to trumpet players. And his calendar is booked full of coaching calls from, you guessed it, a webinar. And then there's Taylor Swift's former manager, her first manager back when she was country, friend of mine, Rick Barker. And he came to me because he teaches people how to independently grow their own music. And he paid me $35,000 to help him develop what? A webinar, of course. And then there are other high-ticket clients of mine, such as Kate, who helps women get sober from alcohol. She uses a webinar to do that. There's Sarah, who teaches photographers how to grow their photography business, and she uses a webinar to do that. There's Safrina, who helps women use feng shui to conceive, and she uses a webinar to do that. And recently, I did an hour consult at my rate, $3,125 an hour, to help a husband and wife optimize their webinar, where they teach Christian-based alternative health practices. So webinars plain work in any and all areas: business, consumer, professional, amateur, high ticket, low ticket, mid ticket. And these are just a few of the many, many clients that I could talk to you about. What to speak of big corporations like Zoom, the platform we're on right now, brought me in to train on their webinars. And the point of it is this: all smart marketers know that when push comes to shove, to really move the needle, to dent the universe, to do something that forever changes the market and forever changes your life, you come correct and you come with a webinar. But what if you're brand new? Should you pay your dues first, earn your stripes, get your reps in, cut your teeth before you even attempt to try a webinar? Well, I'll tell you this: if you're brand new, before webinars end today, I will have the strategy for you so you can swing into any business, plop a webinar on their lap, and then walk out with the money, provided you follow what I will share with you to the T, and you resist the urge to get creative when dumb works better. So let me know right now in the chat if you're okay with doing dumb over creative. If dumb is easier, it makes you more money. Now, some people hold on to their ego and they do that at the expense of money. Other people say, ego, you set aside, I'm about to get paid. Now, before we get into the finer points of a webinar, let's zoom out and let's look at the campaign. What does a webinar campaign look like as a whole? And there's tons of moving parts in a webinar campaign. And if you can't get a handle on all these moving parts, then you will never get a winning webinar launched. So let me help you. And to help you with this, let's talk water. You say, Jason, what do you mean water? Well, I want you to imagine there's a small group of people that you care about dearly, and they're lost in the desert and they're dying of thirst. If this was the case, question to you: what's your main priority? Is it the container the water is going to be in? Is it the label on the container for the water? Is it the logo or the branding? Nah, it's none of those things. What matters the most is anything you can put the water in will do. It doesn't have to be fancy. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be cool. It just has to hold water. So it's not the container that matters. What about the quality of water? Does it need to be sourced from fresh Himalayan springs? And the answer to that is no. It could come out of the tap in your kitchen sink or out of the hose in your garden. The thing of it is this: if you try to make the best brand of water with the best label and the best logo and in the best container with the best quality of water, by the time you get all that done, if you get it all done, then you're going to be bringing water to dead people. That's no good. So if a group of people that you care for are dying of thirst in the desert, what you do is the following. You grab the first damn container that you can find to hold water, you skip the logo, you skip the label, you shove that container under the tap, and you run like hell. And you hope that you make it on time. That's what you do. Now here's what this has to do with webinars. Let's run it back. Notice I said a small group of people that you care about. This is so important because unless you already have a following, your first webinar should be small. It's more beneficial if it's small. My first webinar had 17 people show up to it, and that completely changed my life. See, with webinars, it don't take much to make much, because webinars, whether you realize it or not, they're like magnets that attract the best buyers to your market. This is those that are dying of thirst, the ones that are needing the most help to solve their problem. What I mean is only a small percent of a market at any given time is going to go out of their way to hop on a webinar and educate themselves on what the solution could be to their problem. It just so happens that it's the most responsive slice of the market. It's the 7% of the market that spends 70% of its dollars. Mathematicians even have a name for this concept. It's called the law of the vital few. And just like 7 stocks account for 81% of Warren Buffett's wealth, a few percent of customers in any market, yours, mine, his, hers, and anyone in between, a few percent of customers will spend most of the money. And a webinar pulls those customers in better than anything. A webinar is going to appeal to the best buyers in the market because they're the most serious to solve their problem, and they have the most urgency to solve their problem. And this is why it doesn't take much to make much with a webinar. Listen, if you can get 15 measly people on a webinar, 15 souls, that's it, and only 2 of them buy, and the product is only $500, and you spent an hour to deliver this presentation, question to you: how much money did you make in that hour? What's your hourly rate when we run the numbers? And it's $1,000 per hour. Would you be okay with $1,000 per hour? You know who doesn't make $1,000 per hour? A freaking brain surgeon doesn't make $1,000 an hour. You might say to me, hey, well, Jason, yeah, I might make $1,000 an hour, but that's after I spent all the time and effort up front researching and laying the slides out and scripting the whole webinar. Yeah, let's say that's true, and that I don't have a massive shortcut that I'm going to reveal to you shortly, wink, wink. But what about a resident brain surgeon? He only makes $500 an hour after 7 years of school and after $250,000 in student loans. Whatever you do, wouldn't you agree with me that you must put in some time and some money if you're looking to get financial freedom and unlimited wealth in return? And the answer to that is, of course you do. It's just that the time and the money that you'll invest in your webinar education with me is a drop in the bucket compared to all the other options and alternatives you have to get that freedom and that wealth that you're looking for. Anyways, 15 people ain't that much. The line at your local Starbucks is probably longer than that. And $500 is on the low end of what you should price your stuff on a webinar. Most people will sell higher ticket stuff. So I'm giving you a very basic, very low level entry point of success with webinars. Yet none of that matters if you aren't committed to taking a great solution, whether it's yours or somebody else's, and connecting it to people desperate and in need of it and willing to pay for it. That's the most important thing. So question to you: are you committed to creating a webinar so you can make more money than a brain surgeon? If so, type yes into the chat right now. And by the way, this is going to become very easy once you learn the Statue of Liberty close, which I will share with you here in a bit. Yeah, what about this funnel for webinars that everybody talks about? The registration pages, the thank you pages, the order forms, the emails, the SMSs, and all that stuff, right? Well, when starting out, these things don't matter much. The funnel doesn't matter that much when it comes to the webinars. Think of this, fancy funnels equal fancy water containers. It's like the container that holds the water in. If somebody's dying of thirst, they don't care about the container the water is delivered in. So when it comes to your webinar funnel, go default. Use the templates of whatever it is that you're using to run your webinar. So if it's Zoom, your pages should look like this. This is one of their built-in templates. You just put a title and a description and you're done. It's ugly, but it's done. And that's what matters the most. If you're an old school person that still uses GoToWebinar, cool. Then your pages are going to look like this. Just use their built-in template. The template, I know it's ugly, but it's also done. I have a client, his name is Jay Boyer. He's now made millions of dollars on webinars, and he first learned this from me, and he still, a decade later, uses the default GoToWebinar registration page. And if you're using Webinar Jam, who I've consulted for, they pay me $25,000 to come in and do a day of consulting with them, then just pick one of their templates. I don't care which one you pick, because done is better than anything else. Done is better than beautiful. Done is better than better. Done is better because it's done. Because when you're starting out, the look and feel of the page doesn't really matter. You know what does matter? The presentation. That's what matters. So when we did the $57.9 million launch, this is what our registration page looked like at the start. Ugly, but done. And when we broke the affiliate record of 9.8 million in 8 days, this is what our registration page looked like. Ugly, but done. And when we did a webinar to sell a $10,000 piece of software and it sold $3.29 million from a single webinar, this was the registration page we used. Ugly, but done. Now, there is a time and a place where you would want to optimize and level these pages up, and here's when it is. It's after the webinar presentation has proven itself to be a winner. Write this down. Everything in due time. Everything in due time. You try to do it all at once, you do none of it. So you do the one thing that matters the most, and you get everything else done as fast as you possibly can. I want you to think of successful webinars like branches on a tree. At the bottom are the people who need what you offer the most or what you could offer on a webinar the most. These are the folks that are buying inferior products. They know these products suck, yet they buy them anyway because you ain't making them a better offer. So make them a better offer. Please, will you do me the favor and make them a better offer so you can make money and help them out of their situation. So that's where we start. We run to them as fast as we can with the webinar, and they're happy to pay us, even if all the stuff around the webinar isn't that pretty. Then once we reach this branch on the tree, we go up to the next branch. This is a slightly broader audience. They're dehydrated merely. They're not on death's door yet. They're just dehydrated. So here's what we do. We take the presentation that you've already done, that's already making money, and then we circle back around and we can jazz up the registration page a little bit, maybe add this to the funnel here, add this to the funnel there. So a default page like the one you see on your left can be a slightly optimized improvement like you see on the right, and now you capture this market segment. And then you can take some of the buckets of profits that you've pulled in thus far, and you can hire professionals, because you don't want to do all this stuff on your own. So hire the pros, and they can go up there and they can jazz it all up a little bit more, enhance it a little bit more for you, and then you can pull in even more money. All in due time. And I can show you the best practices at each step of the process because we've been to the top of all of those mountains. But the order is important. If you don't have a presentation right now, or if your presentation ain't performing like it should be, I got some really bad news for you. Nobody buys from an almost done webinar. The major problem, though, is this. Just the presentation alone is often too much for most people who try to do webinars. Here's what they run into. They toil away forever trying to create the perfect webinar with the perfect slides and the perfect script. And you end up locking yourself in a room. You ignore the spouse. You neglect the kids. You ignore the dog. You grind it out for hours. You sweat. You bleed. You cry your way through it. You black out from exhaustion. Until finally, a couple hundred hours later, the webinar is done. Would you like to know a better way? A way that's easier and it's also more effective. I call it forklifting. Forklifting. Instead of you building out every slide by hand to create a 100% unique presentation, what if there was a way that you can take already done for you webinar parts and copy and paste them into your presentation? Is that possible? Well, what could that look like? For example, starting a webinar off with, instead of looking at a blank slide, what if you could start a webinar off like this? What if you could say, in our small amount of time together, my goal is to make a big impact in the following ways: to provide you confidence where there once was uncertainty, to give you clarity where there once was confusion, to unlock within you the true potential you have to make your dent in the universe. Yet if nothing else, I'm here to insert desired outcome of your audience. Pretty good opener, isn't it? Here's the good news. I did all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to figure that out. You can just take what I showed you and fill in one measly blank. This is your work. Tell me if you're up for this. Insert desired outcome. Yet if nothing else, I'm here to insert desired outcome. So you could say, yet if nothing else, I'm here to help you raise kids who aren't assholes. And this would work great in the parenting niche. Or you could say, yet if nothing else, I'm here to help you rewire your brain and body for less stress and more resilience. And this could work in the health or the personal development niche. Or you could fill in the last blank this way. You could say, yet if nothing else, I'm here to help you make peace with your food and free yourself for chronic dieting forever. And this could work well in the weight loss niche. So 95% or more of it is done for you. Just got to fill in a blank here, fill in a blank there. Now, if I gave you all this, and all you had to do was fill in a blank here and fill in a blank here, would that be a game changer for you? Would that make the webinar way easier for you to create, more enjoyable? And don't you think that it would be more effective? Because some of these openers, I've had to try 15, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 variations before I could get it right and just hand it over to you. Now, check this out. Sometimes you don't even have to fill in a blank. Some parts you can forklift the whole thing as is. Like if we were to continue on from what I just showed you into the next part of the webinar, you could go like this. What I need from you, implementation. Nothing pains me more than when I give someone the solution to their problem and then I run into them years later and they're still clinging hopelessly to that very problem. A problem that could have been solved if they had acted upon what I showed them the first time. So my promise to you is to give you exactly precisely what you need to finally get the result you've been working tirelessly at. And all I ask in return is that if it makes sense to you, you act on it the first chance you get. Do we have a deal? Do we have a deal? Notice this section that you could copy and paste into pretty much every webinar. You wouldn't even have to fill in a blank. You wouldn't even have to change a word if you didn't want to. You just say, over here, bing, over there. These sections work like light switches. You don't have to know how electricity works if you have a light switch. All you have to do to make the miracle of light appear in a dark room is flip a switch. Just like that. And there's the light. You don't have to know the persuasive power of the commitment and consistency that I laced into that example that I just showed you. You don't have to be aware of the idea that before you teach anything, if you get someone committed to learn it before you teach it, that it's a massive increase in sales. And that makes sense, doesn't it? Yeah, if somebody commits to doing something before you show them how to do it, the chances of them doing it go up tremendously. And if the chances of them go up tremendously of doing it, then the chances of them buying also go up tremendously. Yeah, all of that's baked in there, but you don't know how the electricity works. You just flip the white switch and it works on your behalf. And it's funny because I see webinar after webinar that fails out there who doesn't know how to do it correctly miss stuff like this. And you automatically get it if you're forklifting in these webinar sections, whether you realize it or not. Just like you don't need to be an electrician when you have a light switch. Isn't that exciting? I want to give you light switches. And then later on, if you want to learn electricity for me, I can teach you that as well. Now, I want you to imagine if you had a warehouse with an inventory of webinar slides, proven slides, where every word has already been thought out, every word has already been measured, weighed, and optimized, and you just grab the slides that make sense for you in each specific part of your webinar, and then the end result isn't so much you creating a webinar, you are assembling a webinar. It's kind of like IKEA furniture, but it's easier to put together, unless you're an engineer, which I am certainly not. I can create webinars that make 7 figures easier than I can put IKEA furniture together, but it's the same concept. To make this work, you would need two things. To forklift material in from my webinars to your webinars. Here's the two things you would need. One, a lot of inventory. You would need many different slide parts from many different circumstances. So you could find and match the right slide inventory to your specific circumstance. That's the first thing you would need. Second thing you would need is structure. Structure is why McDonald's is the biggest restaurant chain in the entire world. Their food is bad, the restaurant's dirty, the ice cream machine is broke more often than it's worked, yet still McDonald's dominates the restaurant space so thoroughly that the first letter most kids learn in the United States is the letter M from the Golden Arches. That's how powerful McDonald's is. And McDonald's wins because of structure. Almost every McDonald's restaurant is identical from my hometown of Muscatine, Iowa, all the way to Beijing, China. You want structure. And once you have structure, then you can just snap in each piece of your specific webinar into place as you go along the way when you put your webinar together. Would you like to know the very best webinar structure that exists out there? The one that you could use no matter what you sell and no matter who you sell to? Are you ready for the structure to be revealed in front of your very eyes? Well, here it is. Hook, pain, excite, position, shift, transition, close. That's the structure in order. Hook, pain, excite, position, shift, transition, close. All right, let's roll up our sleeves. You ready? Let's break down each part of this structure step by step. Hook. Would you be okay if I forklifted you in stuff into your next webinar presentation for the hook? Would that be fine with you? Pain. Would it be okay if I also gave you a whole bunch of sections in pain that you could copy and paste into your webinar? What about excite? Would it be okay if I could give you those to forklift in as well? Position. Would you like some forkliftable sections there? Shift, transition, close. Yes? All right, let's go. Hook. It's so important you get the hook right because the most impression you can make is the first one that you set. If your webinar starts off slow and boring, what do you think your audience concludes about you? They think that you're slow and that you're boring. And so therefore, anything associated with you is slow and it's boring. So how do you set the stage with your webinar? How do you grab attention right away? How do you come out swinging? How do you pull the audience in by the eyeballs and get them hooked on your every word? And I already shared one with you here today. So you can copy and paste this one that I shared with you as well. It's not the only one. I have more than one way in which you can hook somebody in to start a webinar. You could use the fortune teller instead if you wish to, and it goes like this. Let's play a game. I'm going to pretend to be a fortune teller, and you pretend to be my client. I'm going to read your future for the next 12 months when it comes to problem. And you tell me how accurate I am with my prediction. Are you ready? And then you get the commitment for the audience. So all you got to do is fill in that one little fill in the blank there, and you could start off with the fortune teller hook. Or you can use the ABC hook, and it goes like this. Ready for it? I have two agendas today. My first is to give you the very best solution for free you've ever seen when it comes to problem. My second agenda is to sell you something. However, if I don't make good on my first promise, then please do not buy what I offer at the end of this webinar. If by some small miracle, though, I'm able to actually give you the best solution for free that you've ever seen in your life for a problem, then promise me you'll at least give serious consideration to this incredible special offer that I will make to you at the end of our webinar today. Do we have a deal? There you go. That's the ABC hook. Very powerful. Don't you think something like that would hook somebody in? Wouldn't they say, okay, I better pay attention to this? So we can use in our small time together, which I showed you earlier, you can use the fortune teller. You can use the ABC hooks in your next presentation. Forklift them right in, making it easy as pie for you to go from a blank webinar slide deck to one that grabs immediate attention of your audience so they're hooked to your presentation. Now, how helpful would that be for you to use hooks like the one I just showed you, or the other one, or the other one, or many other ones that you can pick and choose as you feel most comfortable with for you to deliver yourself? That's how easy hooking can be. It's only easy after somebody like me puts 16 years in it and then gives it to you on a silver platter. And once you've hooked somebody in, then we go to pain next. Time and again, I see webinars strike out because they're too optimistic, interested. Webinar presenters forget that before you can sell the plan to heaven, you got to help somebody out of hell. And to prove my point, consider this. Why do people go to therapy? It's not that they go saying, my life is great, how do I make it better? They go to get out of depression. And most people who attend webinars, whether they realize it or not, have a very specific pain that they can't get rid of no matter how much they try. So we have to meet them at pain before we can take them to gain. So we hook to get the attention, then we go straight into pain. I have a client in the real estate space. She is so sweet. She's bubbly and optimistic and positive as they come. And when the real estate market is good, she's a killer. She does over $1 million a month with the webinar techniques that I teach my clients. Yet when the market goes south, which it tends to do from time to time, including, unfortunately, right now, then the message can't only be, here's how you sell more house. It has to be, here's how you don't starve. You have to have both. And when she showed me recently her webinar, she says, it's not converting like it normally does. I told her that. You got to meet them where they're at, the pain, and then you build the bridge to the game. And even, by the way, if it's clear skies outside for most people who attend most webinars, they have their personal hell going on inside. So we have to start with the pain. You hook someone in so they pay attention, and then you go straight to pain, like I did on this very webinar right here. Do you remember how I started it? I said, I am here today to sell you hard on webinars. To do that, I must make a confession. Webinars are hard. You know how everybody else would sell you webinars? They would talk to you about how they're great and this miracle and the most powerful marketing breakthrough you've ever seen in your life, blah, blah, blah. I did not start there because I know better. We start with the pain. Remember when I said you have to teach and to sell, and most people can't walk and chew bubble gum at the same time? It's not that we shy away from the pains. We actually enlarge the pain, and we bring it right up. And I talked about all the issues that were painful when it came to using webinars to make money. Now, the most money that you will ever make on a webinar is when you do the following. If you can help someone understand that it's too painful for them to stay the same, write this down. If you can help someone understand that it's too painful to stay the same, then they will automatically want to change. And if they automatically want to change, they will be very open to the specific recommendation you give them on how to change. And that's when you go to excite. After you hook, after you pain, then you excite. And the excitement is in the why. Why this time will be different. Why the previous limitations hold the key to the breakthrough needed. Why the weakness can become the strength. Why the limit can be unlimited. Why the excuse that once stopped you is no longer there when you reach for it. There are so many cool and awesome ways to excite. You can use blind bullets like these, where you reveal the outcome, yet you don't explain how to get the outcome yet. They must stay on and pay attention to find out the answer as you reveal it later on in the webinar. And by the way, if it comes to bullet points, I now have ChatGPT just write these for me. So this is one way to excite. You can also use leading questions. You could say things like, how simple is it to ... or how quickly can you ... or is it easier than ever to ... or where can you use this to your advantage ... Now, I like leading questions because they sneak in the promises in a way that's more easy for your audience to accept. And if your audience accepts them, they will participate in them more. And the more they participate in your questions, the more they purchase. Participation leads to purchasing. So that's another way to excite. And then here's my favorite way, what I call the miracle formula, where you get the audience to commit to you what their why is, why they want to change. See, the problem with most webinars is they focus too much on the how and the what and not on the why. Why are you willing to do the work? Why are you willing to put the time in to get the outcome you desire? If you put someone directly in touch with their why, you tap into the greatest motivator to ever exist. Now, are you ready to hear the miracle formula? Would you like to know how to forklift it into your next webinar presentation, okay? Well, it goes like this. Before we get into the how and the what, it's important to start with the why, specifically your why. Why are you willing to put the time and the effort in to get what you want and what you deserve? Why are you willing to risk your comfort zone to get the result you desire deepest in your heart? The question isn't rhetorical. I want your answer right now, right here in this very chat. And the more specific the answer, the better. The more senses that you involve in the answer, the better. What will your face look like when you succeed with this? Who will be cheering you on and supporting you when you succeed with this? What will it feel like in your heart, in your head, and in your stomach when you succeed at this? Who else besides you will be better off when you finally reach your goal? Your powerful why with my what and my how that I'll share with you today creates miracles. So then the real question is this: are you ready to create a miracle today? That's the miracle formula. Pretty powerful, isn't it? And you didn't have to stay up all night trying to figure out how to write that, because I already wrote it for you. Now, can you see how using things like the miracle formula can create a transformative experience in your webinar to produce more buyers and more fans of who you are and what it is that you have to offer? Yes. So you hook the audience in with a favorable impression. You bring the pain so they know the cost of staying the same. Then you show them the excitement of the possibility of a better tomorrow. And your audience now knows the penalty of inaction. And they now know the reward for action. And this is when we then position. I think positioning on webinars may be the most misunderstood marketing concept to exist, which is crazy, because positioning allows me to take my clients, have them jump into brand new markets, and immediately make an impact and win huge profits. And also, this is probably even more fun, it leads to competition scratching their heads. Like, what just happened there? How did this newcomer come out of nowhere and steal my market share? To understand positioning, let's talk Apple. Apple was the first trillion-dollar company in the world, and they understand positioning better than anyone. Take, for example, their famous 1984 Super Bowl ad campaign, which many experts say changed advertising forever. If you're not familiar, ad works like this. Ad starts with these factory workers, these emotionalists, dressed in gray, walking through a meeting hall with corporate propaganda messages bombarding them, these corporate drones, right? And then it cuts to this young woman. She's in full color, and she's full of life, and she's sprinting into that same meeting hall. And in her hand is this sledgehammer. And she runs into the meeting hall while these drones are watching this corporate dribble take place in this propaganda. And she takes that hammer and she hurls it at the screen and breaks the broadcast, disrupts the whole thing, shattering this droneless, mindless, corporate style computers. And at the end is a pitch for the new Apple computer, the Macintosh. Masterful positioning. The next day, nobody talked about the Super Bowl. They talked about this commercial on the Super Bowl. This is the reason why now Super Bowl commercials are so celebrated, because of Apple. And did you catch what the positioning is here? At the heart of the commercial was this. Apple took IBM and Compaq and these other computer makers of the day, and they said, these are the boring, stuffy, corporate establishment drone types. They are not cool. And because they're not cool, we must be cool. And in an instant, they took all the competition, they positioned every other person as a loser, and by default, they became a winner. That's how powerful positioning is. Positioning is everything. Would you like to know precisely how to use positioning for your webinars? Two things. Every killer webinar has to take two positions. So you have to position yourself, how you're uniquely qualified to solve the problem that people want solved. You want the position to be this. They either solve this problem through you, or they keep the problem forever. Either they solve it through you, or they are hopeless doomed to remain stuck with their problem until the end of time. So you have to position yourself as the key to the solution. And then the second position is the opportunity. Why it's hot, why it needs to be done right now, why others who try to do it the normal way will fall short, and why your specific way of approaching the opportunity is the difference between winning and losing. This is position. So then how do you position yourself? How do you position yourself to be the winner and every other option out there to be the loser? And you do this with results. You do this with big results. You do this with small results, medium results, overall results, recent results, your clients' results. You use quality and you use quantity. Your webinar should be dripping with proof. Now, if I had to choose to promote one of two different webinars, two webinars in front of me, I can only pick one to promote. Question is, which one would you promote? Which do you think is better? One that has two big results and that's it? Or a webinar with 100 small results within the webinar itself? I'll tell you which one I take. I will take the one with 100 small results. Quantity matters a lot. Quantity. I'll take quantity of proof, quantity of results over quality any day of the week. This is exciting because most people who think they're a big deal assume everybody knows they're a big deal. And so therefore, they have the least amount of positioning in their webinars. Blows my mind. And people that are hungry and willing to go in and put as many results as possible and cram them in there, they win because they take advantage of the better positioning. When I write for clients, the easiest money that I make is taking existing webinars and just adding more results to them. It's brain dead, and it's also very profitable. I'll give you my favorite thing. I had a client once. She had a testimonial from the former Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the former British Prime Minister. Yet for some reason it wasn't in her webinar, which is why when I wrote her webinar, this was one of the slides. I put Tony Blair, the former British Prime Minister, in. Kind of a big deal, right? But it would amaze you how so many webinars out there that have the ingredients of results, but don't use those ingredients. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. You might say, Jason, I don't have any results yet. Am I screwed? No. Here's my answer. Narrow your focus. Pick webinar topics where you're the only one presenting on it. And then guess what? You have the top position. Simple as that. This is what my clients here are doing in the Christian-based alternative health space. They offer coaching certification in this space, and they are a one of one. So they have the position of being the only one to solve it. And that result in and of itself can make an unbelievably powerful and compelling webinar. And I have yet to meet a person where we couldn't find a specific slice of a market that they could step into and instantly position themselves as a leader. I don't care who you are. We can position you as the only option. And we can win no matter where you're at in your journey right now. Now, there's another way to do this because there's always more than one way to make a lot of money with webinars. And this is a way in which I've made most of my money with webinars, by the way. You know what's more effective than talking about yourself? It's talking about somebody else. And if you're a beginner, this should excite you because you selling someone else is the most effective position that you could ever take. So I have a webinar selling an Amazon product that has been responsible for over $1 billion in revenue for their 960 students. Now, these aren't my students. I did not help them get to $1 billion in results. My clients did that. I just write and deliver the webinar to sell their product. And I've sold millions of dollars of this product on their behalf. And I get big, fat royalty checks as a result for a product I didn't create, for a product I don't have to support, for a product that I don't have to update, and for a product I don't even have to drive traffic to. My client does all that stuff. I just write and deliver the webinar 2 times a year, kick back, and cash my royalty checks in. Webinars make you Elvis, basically. Webinars can make you Elvis. You say, Jason, what are you talking about? Well, listen, Elvis hasn't wrote a song in 48 years because he's been dead for 48 years. Yet last year, 2023, Elvis, his estate made over $100 million on royalties for songs that he wrote a half a century ago. And that's the power of webinars. You can write them once, barely do them, and make royalties from them by writing them for other clients. And I get it. You might not get the big clients I get because I have a big reputation. People come to me wanting me to write webinars for them. What if you haven't done a single webinar yet? Then here's what you do if you got just a little bit of hustle in your bones. You use what I call the Statue of Liberty close. Now, I call it this because if you visit the Statue of Liberty, there's an inscription that says something like this: give me your cold, give me your poor, you're hungry, you're tired, you're sick, give me your huddled masses, and I will sell them something. I mean, I added that last part on, but you get it, right? My point is this: you can go to anyone with an audience who isn't using a webinar and say something like the following. You could say to them, hey, you've done everything you can to try to sell your amazing product to your audience. And for one reason or another, some of them who should own your product don't yet. And I noticed with the great marketing that you've done, you haven't done a webinar yet. And if you're not close to the idea, then I'd like to propose to you that I do the webinar for you. I do all the work. We invite only the people who have reached the end of the line and haven't yet bought from you despite all your previous marketing attempts. And then on those who do buy from the webinar that I create for you, you just give me a small piece of this newfound profits that I produce for you that you otherwise never would have gained. That's the message. 100% risk-free to them. You do all the work, you split the money. You do all the work, they give you a portion of the money, however you want to put it together. Here's the best part. You just puzzle piece the webinar together using my structure, because the materials from their other marketing already exist. All the raw ingredients are already there. Here's what gets really exciting for me. The reality is there are thousands of great products out there, but there are only a few great webinar pitches. There are thousands of dog training products out there, and there are maybe 3 good webinars in the dog training niche, and 2 of them are clients of mine. And now if you analyze my top 32 performing webinars of all time, here's what you would see. 9 of them were me writing a webinar to sell my own product. 8 of them were partnerships, working with someone else where they created the product and I did the webinar. 7 of them were affiliate webinars, meaning I wrote a webinar to promote somebody else's product. 4 of these webinars were me writing the webinar and somebody else delivering them. And 4 of these webinars were where I was a spokesperson. The client did everything else except the webinar. God, there's so many ways to make money with webinars. However you do it though, your webinar must take the position that what you're showing is the only option if somebody wants to solve their problem. They either solve it through you or they live with their problem forever. And once you've done that, now you set the stage. You've hooked them, you've hit the pain, you've excited them, you've positioned it, and now it's time for the shift. The shift. The shift is the number one thing that I do in my webinars that separates them from all the other webinars out there. The shift is what allows my clients to get better results than anyone else. The shift that you can't perform with any other medium. What is the shift exactly? Well, to understand it, you must know the following. The 10-8-10 rule, which I create. And it goes like this. 10% of your market will never buy no matter what you do. They should buy. They have the means and ability to buy. Buying will be the best thing for them to do, but they don't. It's just one of those things. The sun rises in the east, it sets in the west, and these people don't buy. You say, I'll sell them or die trying. Well, if that's you, then start planning your own funeral. We ignore this part of the market. We don't care about them. Now, on the other side, there's 10% of people who will buy with the least amount of effort. You could screw the pitch up. You could have a weak offer. You could do more wrong than right. And these people will buy not because of you. They will buy in spite of you. This is why I'm a fan of getting your webinar live and done as fast as you possibly can. So you can reach this 10% of the audience as quickly as you can. This is those that are dying of thirst. There's a lot of good money to be made here. Yet the biggest chunk of money, by far, is the 80% of the market. These are those that could go either way. They will say yes, but only under the right circumstances. So your job is to provide those circumstances, and the better you do that, the more profits you can capture. And this is how you can set records and be a hero to your customer. This is how we ended up winning the biggest affiliate promo in history, where we had 9.8 million in sales, and we were almost $8 million ahead of second place. Now, this product creator had their own funnel. They had the free PDFs, they had the product launch squeeze videos. They shot the whole thing in Paris, France, with all the glitz and the grammar of what you're supposed to do for these product launches, all that jazz. And all the affiliates, they were sending the traffic through that sales funnel. And all the other affiliates were limited to that one position. And I went a different route with it. I didn't use their funnels. I didn't use their emails. I didn't use their marketing materials. I didn't use a single strategy, tactic, or conversion element that they created and that every other affiliate was using. I bypassed all those so I could do a webinar myself using the shift. Here's something you have to understand about your audience. Prospects are promiscuous. They are on 158 different email lists. They listen to 73 podcasts on the subject. They're subscribed to 47 different YouTube channels about it, and they're looking for more channels to subscribe to at this very moment. So during a product launch like this, when we were competing against 1,000 plus other very smart and capable affiliates, marketers, and business people, here's what I knew, and here's what I understood. The audience that I was reaching was the same audience they were reaching. We weren't reaching different people. So the better results would come from saying something different to this audience that they weren't hearing from everybody else. And that's when I discovered what I call the $10 million question. And this changed my life forever. Are you ready for the question? Write this down. What isn't this audience hearing that if they did hear would cause them to buy? My thinking was simple. They keep opening and reading the emails. They keep watching the videos. They keep consuming the free training. Clearly, they're looking for a reason to buy, yet they haven't gotten the reason yet. What aren't they hearing that if they did hear it would cause them to buy? Now, my competition was doing me a favor. To understand this, let's talk American football. Game works kind of like this. You play on a field that's 100 yards long. The opposing team kicks the ball off, and your goal is to take that ball and move it from your side of the field to their end zone. Now, if you get in their end zone, you get to score points. Yay! So here's what you do. You run plays with the hopes that each play moves you closer and closer to that end zone. Now, what happens if you get the ball all the way down to the 1 yard line and then time runs out? Do you get most of the points? Do you get some of the points? Do you get one of the points? You get exactly none of the points. And it's like this in business. A deal that's 99% closed is worth exactly $0. So what your competition do is they all use the same techniques pretty much. They say the same things with slightly different words. They use the same angles. They use the same rapport building strategies. And they get some of the 10% who would buy anyway, simply because they reached them first. But what about the 80%? Your competition helps those prospects move closer to a yes, like bringing the ball down the field, but they can't close the deal. So when you reach these same customers, they're already 80 or 90 or 95% sold. You just have to push them over the edge. And even though you do 5% of the work, you get 100% of the profits. Are you cool with that? Does that excite you? If it does, listen very closely to what I'm about to say next. The one thing that stops someone from buying more than anything else is the limit that they place upon themselves. If someone sees themselves as a failure, until you remove that limit, you will never sell them on being a success. The reality is they can achieve the result that the product will show them how to get. Yet until they believe that they can achieve it, it doesn't matter how good the offer is, they will not buy. If they've had a problem and they've tried 99 times to solve it and they failed every single time, then it makes sense that they have this limit because their only experience is failure. So you have to help them understand how this time could be different. You have to shatter the limiting beliefs so thoroughly that they'll feel stupid to even attempt to use their old excuses. So you know what they do? They just buy from you instead. Now, that's the power of the shift. And there are many shifts that I could share with you. I have one for this webinar that I think best illustrates the power of the shift. And it goes like this. I call it small results sooner over large results later. Our best webinar campaign ever in the finance space wasn't how to make $1 million in the next year. It was how to make a few dollars starting as early as tomorrow. Your average person in a market like this has no concept of $1 million. You might as well be speaking a foreign language. Yet everyone has experienced tens of dollars. They get that. And people know that the longer the time it takes to get a result, the more the chances of the thing going wrong increase. So reduce the time frame to the result and you remove the excuse that they'll give up before they get to the end. See, they don't believe they can get a big result. Yet they do believe that they can get a small yet meaningful result. And they do believe that they can hang in there for a short time frame, but they don't believe that they can hang in there for a long time frame. And they also believe that if they can get a small result and repeat it consistently, then eventually they'll get the large result anyway. This is high-level stuff, very powerful, okay? So what we do is we shift from big result to small result, and we shift from long time horizon to very short time horizon. And if you do that shift, oh my God, you'll take all the people that other people almost got sold and you'll collect all the money. Example, my Product E-Class webinar, which has now run for 15 years straight. At the core of this webinar, we teach people how to create $4 ebooks that are about 6-7 pages long. And everybody can see themselves doing that by the time the webinar is over with. Last time I ran that webinar, I converted at 30%. Insane on a $500 price point, okay? Now you can get advanced with this shift of small results sooner. You could say, well, this has produced insane results like these over here, showing you what's possible. I want you to focus on the smaller results instead of that are more within your reach. And guess what happens when you say that? Part of your market will say, screw you, I'm going big, and then they'll buy while they're in disagreement with you. And the other part of the market says, okay, that makes sense, I can see myself doing that, and they'll buy because they're in agreement with you. Yet agree or disagree, the end result is the same. It's what? They buy. That's the power of the shift. Now, you could use the famous 3 secrets approach that some other, popular webinar trainers teach out there, and that can work because the shift there is from complex to simple. Oh, just 3 things. But does your offer have to be based on secrets? What if the audience needs to do the obvious and you come out there, secret this, secret that? Do you see the issue with this? That's a problem. It's very limited, okay? In many situations, the shift that works best isn't a shift in knowledge. It isn't, here's what you didn't know before that you now know. It's a shift in circumstances. That's the most powerful. At the core of all the shifts that I offer forklifted slides for, here's my emphasis. Let's not change the person, change the circumstance around the person. Think of it like poker. You could try to make more money in poker by learning how to play the game better. You can learn how to bluff, you can learn how to better calculate the odds, read people, et cetera, et cetera. Or you could just find tables with really bad poker players that bet large amounts of money and don't really care if they lose or not. So getting better at poker is changing the person. That's hard. Finding tables is changing the circumstance. That's much easier. So all my best webinars aim for this. Write this down. How do we require as little change on the audience as possible to solve their problems? You do this, and you'll get more buyers than you ever thought possible. Are you up for that? I'm doing this right now in this very webinar. I have all these slides that you can forklift in to your presentation. That regardless of whatever you're selling or who you're selling to, if you can forklift them in, you massively increase your chances of success with webinars. So I'm changing the circumstance for you. I will also try to help you get better at webinars, but even if you don't get better at webinars, I will get you a better results because I'm giving you the forklift material. How much easier does money making become when you require so little effort on your audience to get a result? Can you see how this can be the difference between struggling in your business and getting stupid rich? Recap. You're hooked to create the most favorable impression. That's how you set the tone for the webinar. You go into pain because this is where the audience is at, so you meet them there. Then you take them through excitement, showing them the contrast between keeping the pain and the effort to solve it. Then you position what you have to eliminate all the other options, so the audience know you are the only one with the answer. And then you perform the shift, so they have to do the least effort on their part to solve the problem. And this is where we shatter the limiting belief with the shift that previously stopped them from going forward, and now they go forward, and now they pay you money. Then we transition. Question to you. If you were a comedian, what do you think is more important? The setup of the joke or the punchline? Now the punchline gets all the credit. It's the part people quote, but the punchline don't punch without the setup. So if you're selling anything, the state of mind that you get someone in directly before you make the offer is even more important than the offer that you make. Think about it. What if people were grateful that you're making them an offer? What if they were happy and excited that you were giving them a choice to buy something from you? And now they're looking forward to what you're about to sell them. If you set up those conditions, don't you think that it would make a huge difference in how you close? You can do all that with a forklifted transition that I'll share with you in a minute. I will give you the exact transition, okay? First, though, I have to give you a confession. When I started with webinars in 2008, I was very uncomfortable selling on webinars because people back then, they didn't expect to be sold to when they attended a webinar. And I felt bait and switchy to me. So the first hook that I ever used was the 2 agendas hook that I shared with you earlier, where I say, I have 2 agendas today. My first is to give you the very best solution for free that you've ever seen when it comes to problem. And my second agenda is to sell you something. However, if I don't make good on my first promise, then please do not buy what I offer at the end. However, if by some small miracle I'm able to actually give you the best solution for free you've ever seen in your life for a problem, then promise me you'll at least give serious consideration to this incredible special offer I will make to you at the end of our webinar together today. Do we have a deal? So that was the hook. Now the hook in the first few seconds of the webinar set up the transition later on. And this was it. This is a transition. You ready for it? It goes like this. At the beginning of the webinar, I told you I had 2 agendas today. My first was to give you the very best solution you've ever seen for problem. Did I make good on that promise? Now, my second agenda was to present to you an offer that I think, if you're the right person for it, would be the very best thing in the world you could invest in. Do I have your permission to make you such an offer right now? That's a pretty good transition. It does a lot of things there from an electrician standpoint that you don't have to know about, but there's so much persuasion in there. You just got to flip this switch on. This is pretty good, considering I vetted this whole thing way back in the day, about 15 years ago. Now, over the years, I kept trying different transitions and improving upon them and auditioning them and tweaking them and doing all this stuff until I landed on my famous 2-choice transition, which is what most people that are absolute pros in business use now in their webinars. To prove to you that you can forklift all this stuff, I'm going to show you 2 students of mine who are very different from each other, who both use this exact same transition. The first is the legendary Bob Proctor. If you don't know who Bob is, he's the all-time greatest trainer in personal development history. He has passed on with us since, but he taught personal development for over 50 years and helped millions of people master what he called the art of living. One of his programs he sold used an automated webinar, and it did pretty good. And then it started crushing it when he forklifted in my webinar strategies like the following transition. And it goes like this. Bob says, I'm certain just with the information we've covered on this webinar today, left on your own with your own resources, time, and effort, you can sit and reach some very interesting goals. And if that were your only option, it would be a worthy ideal to pursue. But what if there was another option? An option that allowed us to go at this together, a chance to go deeper than we can in one short hour on one fast-moving webinar, connecting together just this one time. What if I played an active role in your results, took responsibility in your success, and had an obligation to your outcome? How would that make things different? Do you think in that situation I could empower you with any and all the resources at my disposal to stack the deck in your favor to make success all but inevitable? If I had shortcuts and support systems and additional insights that go even deeper and more thorough into getting the result that you want, desire, or deserve, if I had such an option for you, would you love to hear more about it and what it could do for you? You would? That's why it's with great pleasure that I introduce to you, insert product name here. That is almost a word for word exact transition that I wrote in 2012 that he forklifted right into his presentation. And so many people have forklifted in the same one since then, including Mr. Alex Hermosi. Now, the last webinar training that I put out in 2017, which we've since retired, he said it was the best course on persuasion that he's ever seen. And probably in the next 2 years, Alex will become a billionaire. Now, when he did the biggest book launch in the history of internet marketing last year, he did a webinar. And he paid me $25,000 for a day of consulting, and most of our time was spent on the shift. We didn't even talk about the transition because we didn't have to. He had already forklifted it into his presentation. And it goes like this. You see, before this presentation today, I was faced with one of two choices. And now you know the deal. I could go this way, I could go that way, yada, yada, yada. I chose the second option. Would you like to know what it is? That's the two choices close. Now you might say, hey, both of those are in the money-making space, Jason. Does it only work in those niches? Well, remember my trumpet playing client earlier and the trumpet playing niche. This is his webinar where he teaches people how to play the better trumpets, and they pay him $5,000 and his coaching program is fully booked. Here's his slide when it comes to the transition. Now I have total confidence that you could take everything we covered and apply it to your trumpet playing on your own today. With just the information we covered in this webinar, along with your own resources, I'm sure you could go out in the real world of music and accomplish what most wouldn't be able to do. And if that were your only option, you'd still be off to a great start. But what if there was another option? A way that we could go at this together, a way that I could employ every resource. Yeah, you get it, right? It's all forklifted. Maybe the words change a little bit, but the concept is the same. It's the two choices transition. And that's just one of the transitions that you can forklift from my stuff into your stuff. There are other transitions you could use. I have them all locked and loaded and ready to be forklifted into your presentation, yet hopefully the point is made. The transition gets the audience in the most receptive state to hear the offer, which then puts you in the most comfortable state to make the offer. So now it's time to close. I'm going to make a statement, and when I say it, your response is going to be, yeah, duh, Jason. Yet it's only obvious after I point it out, and it's easy to forget when it comes time to make your offer. So I want you to write this down. You ready for it? It goes like this. People make really dumb decisions for really stupid reasons. Frequently. A person won't drive across town to save $100 on a new $1 million Ferrari, but that same person will drive across town to save $100 on a $110 pair of shoes. And when you ask them why, they say, well, I had to. The shoes were 90% off. Forget that the net result is exactly the same. $100 in savings. It's not the percent that matters, okay? So if they do it for the shoes, they should do it for the Ferrari. But they don't. That's because customers are both insane and irrational. And you could try to fight it with logic and reason, and you'll lose the sale. Or you can instead figure out how to present your offer within your customer's weird decision-making process, and you can get stupid rich. Would you like a specific example of how to do just that? Now, if you have an offer that includes training and software and templates and community and coaching, and you sell it for $1,497, that could work. That's not bad, okay? If instead, though, you did it like this. Training is $14.97, and when you sign up, you also get this software for free. And you also get these templates for free. And you also get access to this community for free. And you also get this coaching for free. That works better. Even though it's the same deliverables, at the same price, the same everything, the way it's presented matters more than what is presented. And speaking of price, by the way, your audience only knows if it's a good price based on what they can compare it to. So if you go to buy a suit and they first take you to the $5,000 suit, and then they next show you the $1,000 suit, it's not that this suit costs $1,000 anymore. It's that this suit is $4,000 cheaper than the first one that they saw. Now compare that. If you came in and the first suit they showed you was a $100 piece of crap, and then they showed you the $1,000 suit. Now it's not $1,000, it's $900 more. Same suit, same price, yet it's either a deal or a ripoff because of what came directly before it. So how you close with these kind of weird things that shouldn't make sense matter, okay? It gets better. Turns out it doesn't even have to be dollars to dollars. Any number will do. Psychologists once did a test where they asked Americans, hey, what's the last 2 digits of your social security number? And then they said, see that house over there? What would you guess the value of that house to be? And here's what they discovered. The higher the social security digits, the higher people would guess the value of the house. And once I saw that study, I created this forklift price close. And it goes like this. The sun is 93 million miles from Earth, yet it gives 8 billion people all the nourishment they need. And I'm only asking you to put down 1997 today with insert product name. Million, billion, thousand. Big number, tiny number. Now, does this work? On its own, it helps. Yeah, we're going to like out is the building of every part of the game. Anytime you get isolation of each on its own, it certainly helps. Yet it's when you connect them all together, that's when miracles happen. That's when the money gets made, that's when lives get changed. And one major problem that people sell is they overemphasize the result, yet they do little to decrease the risk. People might buy when the result is big enough, but people will buy if the risk is completely removed. Now, you can never fully remove risk, but the closer you can come to it, the more money you will make. And I've looked at thousands of webinars in the market. I've created hundreds of them myself, and yet I've only seen a handful of webinars outside of my own that use the greatest risk reversal strategy to ever exist. Are you ready to discover one of my best secrets for webinar success? A secret that I use that less than 0.1% of webinars use. Are you ready for it? It's called a better than money back guarantee. I want you to imagine a scenario where the customer has to carry 100% of the risk. The person making the offer, they risk nothing, 0%. The customer risks everything, 100%. And every time this customer looks elsewhere to buy something to solve their problem, the same thing occurs. 0% of risk on the seller, 100% of risk on the buyer. Then you come along. Now, you don't want to take risk either. None of us really do. So here's what you come up with. You're only going to shift a tiny little bit of the risk from the customer to you, like 1% of it, barely any of their risk. What do you think happens when you're the only one shifting risk? Even if it's a tiny fracture of a 1% of the risk, nobody else does it. You do a tiny little bit. What do you suppose happens? Here's what happens. The gesture itself closes the sale. Now, what if you could shift a real risk off their shoulders and make it not a risk at all to you? How powerful would that be? Would you like an example of this that you could forklift into your presentation? Here's how it goes. Listen, if you try this out and for some strange reason it doesn't work for you, even if I give you your money back, you're still out your time, you're still out your effort. So is there a way I could pay you for your time if by some weird chance you try this and it doesn't work for you? Turns out I can't. See, the difference between those who win with this immediately and those who take a little longer is consistency. Winners consistently make a plan in the morning and follow it in the afternoon. And that's all I ask of you. Simply create a Google Doc and share it with your email of support here. And then for the next 60 days, write the specific action plan you'll take in the morning in one paragraph, and then in the evening, document what you actually did. Do that for 60 days straight. And if you don't get specific result here, then I'll give you double your money back. Simple as that. How's that for risk reversal? If you use a better than money back guarantee like this, guess what you'll discover? Because we've used many of this exact guarantee in many presentations. Here's what we discovered, and here's what you'll discover as well. As long as you can get the customer to be consistent, then they will get the results. And if they get the result, they don't need the guarantee. You help them get the results. And that makes the guarantee meaningless. And by the way, the customers who aren't going to do anything anyway, they never qualify for the guarantee. So the only people that are willing to qualify for the guarantee often become successful attempting to qualify for the guarantee. And now you have more success stories. Now you have more results. Now you have a better position. This is called a positive feedback loop. And really, here's what the guarantee is for. The most unluckiest customers, the ones who go outside and somehow a bird flies by and it poops and it lands on their heads. These are the 1 in 10,000 customers who end up qualifying for the guarantee at the end of the day. My question to you is this: would you increase your cost by a tiny little fraction if it increased your profits by a tremendous amount? Every damn marketer I know will risk more money on Facebook. They will risk more money on Google Ads. They will spend a whole bunch of money on these platforms to acquire a customer. They'll give billion-dollar corporations more of their money, but they won't risk one thin penny on the customer themselves, which is insane, because if they did, they could cut their advertising bill in half because they would double their conversion. But people don't think like that. Now, even if you're not ready to do a better than money back guarantee in your first webinar, I totally get that. That's a big step for you. Then at the very least, promise me you will use this next technique, which is so easy that a child could do it. And that's actually where I got it from, a child. Studies show that it takes people being asked 26 times to buy something before they say yes to it, on average, 26 times. Most marketing campaigns, however, only ask for the order on average 4 times. Crazy. The more you ask, the more money you make. Simple as that. Provided you can do it without being annoying. That's the only trick. And I'll show you exactly how to do this in a few slides. Now, the problem, though, with most webinars is this. They present to you the offer, every part, big and small. They talk about the bonuses. Maybe they throw in a money-back guarantee, and if they're smart, they have scarcity, and they take the time to explain the scarcity. And after a long time spent going through every part, then they do their first call to action. If you do it the way that I'll show you, by the time all these other presenters have made their first call to action to sign up, you've made at least your 10th. Here's what most will never realize. When you make that first call to action, you immediately pick up a big chunk of buyers. These are those dying of thirst, the ones that are already going to buy. Cool. So if you had 100 people on when you make the offer, you might get 4 of them immediately to say yes on the first ask. And if this is a $1,000 product, you just made $4,000. Exciting. That's the pay of 8 brain surgeons. Pretty good. Yet 4 out of 100 is still only 4%. That's it. It's such a small number. The reality is this: any offer, no matter how good it is, and no matter how well presented, will be met with an immediate no by most of your audience the first time that you present it. Don't take it personal. It's not you, it's them. The word no is the easiest word to say because no means no signing up, no money spent, no effort put in, no change. In the short term, doing nothing is always going to be the most attractive choice. There's no consequence to it, and there's no action needed. It's over the long term that doing nothing costs you, and the pain of regret hurts more than the pain of action. That's why you have to be persistent. To help your audience help themselves. And one way to help them make a yes decision is to empower them to feel in control. Saying goes like this: people don't want to be sold, but they do want to buy. So if they have to say no when you ask them and then think it over for a minute and decide on their own terms that they're going to buy, and somehow that's different, cool. I'm okay with that, are you? If they have to say no to you so they can say yes to you, and you help them get the no out of the way sooner so they can say yes sooner, is that okay? Are you up for that? Good. Because what most presenters believe is they think when you first ask for the order, people will say no immediately, and then they'll run away from you. Instant and permanent rejection. And that doesn't really happen. Okay? The reality is most people say no, and then they stay on the webinar. And this is where all the money is made. The trick to big webinar profits goes like this. Here's my offer. Here's why it's a bargain. Go to example.com/yes to sign up. 96 don't, 4 do.
Hey, Jason,
And you say, I also have this bonus. Now go to example.com/yes to get it. And then a couple sign up, and most people still say no. And they say, I also have this bonus. Now go to example.com/yes to get it. And most people still say no, but 1 or 2 might say yes. Okay, then you say, hey, listen, this deal is limited and it does expire soon, so go to example.com/yes to sign up before it expires, and maybe you get 1 or 2 more to say yes. And then you say, here's another reason that if you're this person, you should invest, and if that's you, go to example.com/yes to sign up, and maybe 1 or 2 sign up. And then you say, here's yet another reason why it might make sense for you to go to example.com/yes and sign up, and then maybe 1 or 2 more go. And then you say, here's another reason, and then maybe 1 or 2 more go. And this is how webinar success looks like. At the heart of it is a concept I figured out many years ago that made me millions and millions of dollars, and it goes like this. Write this down. New insight equals new decision. We have to give people new insight, and then they can make a new decision. So a no can become a yes. If anyone makes it this far in your webinar, you know they're a right fit. You know they should buy. If they haven't yet because they haven't heard the right reason to buy. And here's the good news. Zoom doesn't charge you by the minute. PowerPoint doesn't charge you by the slide. So this is free money, okay? Audiences just need one right reason to buy. And once they hear it, they say yes. Now, his reason might be different than hers, and this person might need to hear more than one reason before they say yes. That's okay, since you lose nothing by giving additional reasons. The only thing stopping you from giving additional reasons is you don't know enough different reasons to give. So forklift them. I have a client whose webinar now does over 8 figures, but here's the problem. The webinar's 4 hours long. I don't know if that's a problem if you're making 8 figures. Now, only 1 hour of the webinar is an actual presentation, and the other 3 hours are different reasons his attendees should say yes. And every reason is one that he got from me directly. He has written out word for word and just reads these one after the other. And are you saying, Jason, you have 3 hours of specific word for word closes? No. I have more than 3 hours, but 3 is a good start, okay? Like you could use the old habits close during this part of your webinar. You could say, wouldn't you agree that habits are hard to change? That's why you've probably been struggling to get a certain result. If we end the webinar right now in part of ways, it's highly doubtful you'd immediately change your habits and behavior to achieve insert specific result. In fact, you are already aware how easy it is to fall back into your old habits, the ones that prevent you from getting specific result, but I'm not going to let that happen. If you want true lasting change so you can finally achieve specific results, then you're going to need repeated exposure with the right resources. You're going to need accountability, and lucky for you, I have both. The right resources and the right exposure combined with the right accountability at example.com/yeah. That's the old habits reason. You help people get past their old habits that keep them stuck. You could use the next one if you wanted to. It's called the nothing special approach. You could say, listen, what I've been able to do is nothing special when you consider the facts. The facts are I've spent the last several years of my life using trial and error methods to discover the secrets that I can give for you today for one easy investment of blank at example.com/yes. Now, I'm of average intelligence. I have average skill. The only major advantage I have going for me is I'm willing to work hard, I fail often, and I never give up. And you can do the same. You can go out there and spend countless hours dealing with all the stress, headaches, and making all the same mistakes I did. My question to you is why? Why would you do that when you could shave thousands of hours of headache and heartache off by simply exchanging a small amount of money today to get insert specific results? You can breeze past the pitfalls as I give you the essence of my thousands of hours experience. So you could shortcut your path to success to a matter of hours or days instead of months or years. When you look at it like this, I think you'll agree with me that you're getting a deal of the century when you sign up today at example.com/yes. You can change the words a little bit. Do you get it though? You don't have to figure this out. I've already figured it out for you. You can even be very direct. You can use this close called the result or excuses close. You can say people are good at 2 things, getting this result or making excuses. They are mutually exclusive. You can't be good at both, so pick one. Your excuses might not cost you money, but they do cost you dignity, they cost you growth, and eventually your excuses cost you your soul. And the longer you sit with your excuse, the better you get at making them. So you can pick excuses or you can pick specific results. And if you only got half as good at this specific result as you are with your excuses, then you'll accomplish far more in the next few months than you could have ever possibly dreamed. So my question to you is this: your excuses or example.com/yes, which will be your future? You can use that close if you want to, okay? You can even get spiritual with it and use the footprints close, which goes like this. When you sign up at example.com/yes, you get the best solution for specific results, and you also get something else. You get me. You ever heard of the poem called Footprints? It's a man has a dream, and he's walking on the beach with God. And as he's walking, many moments from his life are shown in the sky, and each moment has footprints. And sometimes there's two sets, and sometimes there's one set. And the man notices that during all the hardest times of his life, there's only one set of footprints. So the man asked God, "Why did you leave me during my darkest moment to walk alone?" And God replied with the following. He said, "The times when you see only one set of footprints is when I carried you." And when you sign up at example.com/yes, you get both the best solution for specific result, plus you get me. And with me, if things ever get hard and you need carry, I will carry you. I will support you. I will be there for you. I believe in you more than you believe in yourself when it comes to this. So help me help you at example.com/yes. Okay? Now, you don't have to go that hard. And if you don't believe it, don't say it. These are just examples. And I could give you more. I could give you the no wonder you fell clothes. I could give you the cross the street clothes. I could give you the newborn baby clothes. I could give you the too good to be false clothes. I could give you the moral obligation clothes, the think it over versus feel it over clothes, the what if it all goes right clothes, the gift of being new clothes, the circus elephant clothes, and a whole bunch more. All of these closes do one thing. They break a loop. Your best customers who should say yes but don't say yes because they're stuck in an indecision loop. So keep giving them new information, and sooner or later, you'll break them out of a loop. And you can even be lazy about it. Like another client of mine, Ben Cummings, who did 7 figures in his first webinar. When it came time to deal with the objections, he just printed out my closes, and this is what he said. He said, "My mentor taught me these, and I didn't have time to write them down in my presentation in my own words, so I'm just going to read them to you." And then he closed $1.2 million in sales in 3 days. Listen. When someone is considering a solution, how big is their desire to watch, to listen, and to consume as much as possible to help them make that decision? It is a lot. Their appetite is huge during that moment. Now, your competition is ignorant to this, so they quit early. You just have to quit later, and then you're going to capture all the money that they leave on the table. You up for that? Now, a 4-hour webinar beats a 3-hour webinar, which beats a 2-hour webinar, which beats a 1-hour webinar, because most of the time we spend on webinars is on the objections, where you address an objection, ask for the order. Address an objection, ask for the order. Repeat process over and over again, okay? I have a serious question for you right now. Do you care about the audience that you want to serve? Like, seriously, do you care? And how much do you care? Do you care a little bit, or do you care a lot? Now, anyone can say they care, but can you show it? If you're willing to hang on your webinars just a bit longer than everyone else, if you're willing to show your audience that you care more, then because you care more, you make more money. When you care more, you make more money. When you show you'll hang in there longer than everyone else, that's when you get the sale. Now, if you don't care, I can't help you. If you do care, then all you need to do is what? All you need to know is what to say. And I have all the closes waiting for you to forklift into your presentations. Or you can even just read them aloud like Ben did. I have the exact transitions, like the 2 choices, which Alex Hormozy and Bob Proctor used to make millions of dollars and help millions of people. I have the openings, the hook, the pain, the excitement, the shifts. I have it all. I have the exact slides you can use as well as the strategy behind those slides and what makes them so great. And if you bought every other webinar course on the market out there and combined them together, it would not have half of what is in this training program that I'm about to offer you here in a minute. Because I'm so confident that what I have will help you, I'm going to risk $10,000 of my own money on your success. Now, the product I'm about to sell you is one I didn't want to create because I knew what it would cost me. The product would be the hardest that I ever did in my career. Okay, it would be harder than the marketing needed to make 9.8 million in 8 days. It would be harder than the strategy required to do $57 million in 226 days. It would be harder to create than the last webinar training that I did, which Alex Hormozi called the single best course I've ever seen on offer creation and persuasion. If I were to create the ultimate products on webinar, I'd have to find every single webinar that I created over the last 16 years. And that's hundreds of webinars. I'd have to dig through the archives, boot up old computers, hunt for keynotes and PowerPoints, search the cloud to find every webinar that I ever did. And then I'd have to go through every slide of every webinar and make a note anytime I saw any tactic, strategy, or method from those webinars that was awesome. Over thousands of slides I'd have to go treasure hunting through to find the best of the best technique. For days, I had to lock myself into an office from morning to night looking for that gold. And when I was finished, I had buckets of it. Every powerful hook, every killer close, every tactic on price, every strategy on offer. Next came the hardest part. I had to put it in framework so when I showed it to you, you could just immediately get it and use it, forklifting as much of it into your presentation as possible, like Alex Hormozi did, and like Bob Proctor did, and like countless other multimillionaires do with my webinar stuff. Welcome to GOAT Webinars. GOAT stands for greatest of all time, and this program will empower you to create the greatest webinar of all time in your niche. When I created this training, my goal was to remove the biggest obstacle that prevents people from succeeding with webinars, and that's choice. The flaw with all these trainings out there is they leave choice open-ended. They give you a lot of things to consider and then leave you to connect the dots on your own. That is dangerous. What if I only gave you good choices? I limited your choices, only gave you the best choices to consider, and just let you pick one. It's kind of like a TV show I used to watch as a kid called Let's Make a Deal, where contestants would have 3 doors in front of them, and they could pick from one of the 3 doors, and behind those doors would be a prize. Now, to make the show interesting, there'd be 1 cool prize, 1 so-so prize, and 1 terrible, not really a prize whatsoever. But that's entertainment. What if instead I could give you 3 doors, behind every door was a good choice? So one door might have a big bag of money, another door might have 2 big bags of money, and another door might have 3 big bags of money. So you get to choose what the door is. It just so happens that every choice is a good one. You might not make the best choice every single time, but every single choice is a winner, and so you continue to win every single time you make a choice. That's how I created Go Webinars. So you need a hook, choose from 1 to 7. You need to deal with pain, choose from 1 to 8. You need to excite, choose from 1 to 7. You need a position, choose from 1 to 5. You need to shift, choose from 1 to 8. You need to transition, choose from 1 to 4. You need to close, choose from 1 to 5. If you're not even sure how to choose, just go to random.org, put in a number, push a button, and whatever it spits out, go with that one. Because that's how I created this program, so you could randomly make choices and be successful. And you get it all. I teach every secret in Go Webinars. I also give you the slides so you can forklift them right into your own killer webinar. You get the training, professionally edited videos that were all shot in front of a live small audience of multi-millionaire webinar presenters who paid $10,000 to be in the room when I gave the training. You get all the slides, 1,300 plus slides designed to make it easy for you to forklift my stuff into your presentations. You get the transcripts so you can copy and paste words for word. You get everything you need to unlock the true value of a webinar, which is the best version of your message connecting to your audience so you can help the most people, change the most lives, and make the most money that's ever possible to make. Like the Mickelson twins did. Their webinar is an engine for a 9-figure business for them at this point, and it may be the most forklifted webinar of any of my clients that I've ever seen. So to them, my training is worth 9 figures. And then there's Alex. My webinar training has helped him accelerate his path to being a billionaire. It's only a matter of time at this point. So Go Webinars, they're going to produce the next generation of Mickelson twins and Alex Hormozi's amongst its customers, 8- and 9-figure and even 10-figure billionaires. May come of this. My question is, will it be you? For many clients, my webinar training is worth millions of dollars, which is why people eagerly sign up at the public website for $2,497 all the time, which is a great deal. Yet I have an even better one for you here today. Because you've taken the time to show up, what I know about you is this: most of the winning is in the showing up. So to reward you for the good use of your time, I'm going to hook you up with a special link to get GoWebinars at the best offer possible, both in terms of investment as well as in terms of value. Plus, I'm going to show you my special $10,000 guarantee, which I'll cover here in a second. First, for an extremely limited time, and only at gowebinars.com/go, you can get in for just $14.97. Or if you want, you can spread it out over 3 installments of $5.99. Either way, get you the exact same training. Now, this is special pricing. It's only available for a short while. And once that countdown timer hits 0 at the URL you see on your screen, the page automatically disappears and the sign-up form gets permanently deleted. So if you're late, when you hit the button, you'll see this pop up instead, as the sign-up form will have become disabled. So sign up right now. And when you sign up today, at the URL you see on your screen, you're also going to get some extra special bonuses, including the first bonus, which I call the mother load. You'd have to be insane to sit down and create a webinar with a blank slide deck these days. All smart marketers have a collection of different examples of great marketing that they use for inspiration and as a model to create their own marketing. So don't reinvent the wheel with webinars, just add some custom rims to it with my webinars. Now, if you were to try to hunt down and find my webinars on Google and YouTube, you'd be lucky to find it. Would you like to know the secret of how to do this, as well as every other secret to webinar funnels that no one else seems to be aware of? Like why do ugly pages all the time, even though it's easier to build pretty funnels? All this and more is laid out for you for free when you sign up at the URL on your screen. Plus, you're going to get the replay generator app inside of the members there. You can use tap into this gold line of using webinar replays, which forces you to do it right. Because so many of my clients left on their own can't do them right. So that's included in bonus number 2. Bonus number 3, the big book of webinar closes. I remember my client Ben, who did 1 million plus, where he just basically read out some of my closes. And I remember my other client, who I told you the 4-hour webinar was reading this, was just reading my closes. Remember I showed you the closes earlier of all these different closes that I showed you that we have? Well, I have more. And they're all documented, word for word, for you to use however you wish to when you sign up for this special offer, which is only available at limited time at the URL you see on your screen. You get my big book of webinar closes and the wizard. There are over 8,000 words of closes that you can use on your webinar. And they're written to apply to every type of product and every type of niche. Bonus number 4. Twice a year, I do a webinar for a product called the Wholesale Formula. It's not my product, and I don't drive traffic to it. I just do the pitch, and I get a % of the sales that come in. The Wholesale Formula is a product created by Dylan Frost and his business partner. Dylan has sold over $20 million of his stuff on webinars, all through affiliates. Instead of having to pay for traffic out of his pocket, he gets other marketers to promote his product and then gives them a cut of any sale that they refer. Affiliates are the quickest and most risk-free way by far to launch and grow your webinars. Dylan has had 2,905 affiliates promote him in the last 8 years. And in fact, that's how I first met him. He got me as an affiliate to promote the wholesale formula. And if you can get me, you can get anybody. In fact, it was Dylan who got our first affiliate, or no better. A guy named Jeff Walker. You may have heard of him. He is one of the biggest, most legendary names in our space. Created the product launch formula. Dylan got him to promote wholesale advertising. This guy is the best in sex when it comes to getting affiliates to promote webinars. This is the only time Dylan has ever taught me secrets as a favor to me, since I have helped him make several $1 million with the webinars that I've done for him. You get his secrets at the URL on your screen. He's going to break down all the ins and outs of how you get other people to promote your stuff without you having to spend a single dollar out of your own pockets. Now remember, one good affiliate, this is what they can be worth to you and your products. And when we did the big launch of $57 million, 93% of our sales came from affiliates. So that bonus is waiting for you when you sign up for the short period of time on the URL that you see on your screen right now. That's bonus number 4. Bonus number 5, 8-figure Instagram webinar traffic. This is a client of mine, Justin Phillips. And he used my webinar strategies to do his first webinar, which made him $170,000 in sales. And then he took that and he applied it to Instagram and he turned that webinar into an 8-figure success. And I interviewed him to discuss exactly how he's using Instagram and how he grew his following from 20,000 to 980,000 followers, and his exact approach of using Instagram to get people to attend his webinar. Here's some insights from this interview. First insight, Justin only does 1 post a day. Second insight, his videos always start the exact same way. You can see it, the finger pointing up, right? His videos all end the exact same way with a specific call to action. He gets his ideas for his Instagram videos by going into certain viral trends that are happening on TikTok and forklifting them into Instagram. When he showed this to me, I just shook my head at how easy it is. You'll see it on the interview, okay? And what he does then is basically he posts stuff on Instagram, gets people to beg him to invite them to a webinar, uses AI to send the invite out, puts them through a simple funnel like I teach, and out comes eight figures in sales. I got him to break down his exact process step by step, including how he even closes sales for his offer before they even show up to the webinar. Very powerful stuff. Plus why he uses 2, not 1, but 2 calls to action in all his Instagram posts. It seems like it shouldn't work, but it does. It doubles the results. How he takes the hottest organic content and then advertises on it to get even more leads and buyers, and how he uses Instagram DMs to close 5% of all his webinar opt-ins on an $8,000 coaching package. The only way you get people like Justin to spill their secrets like this is you first have to make them millions and millions of dollars, which is what I did. Then once you do that, you ask them for a favor, which is what I did. And this is the best way I know it, for anyone to use social media to fill up their webinars with the highest quality attendees that will buy the quickest and at the highest paid prices. The only other place that you would find secrets like this is inside of my $35,000 per year mastermind called Driven. You get it for free when you sign up at the URL you see on your screen. That's bonus number 5. Bonus number 6, secrets of the biggest internet marketing launch in history. Went like this. On May 16th, I took a meeting for a new potential product idea. By the 28th, we launched the first version of it. So that in and of itself is very powerful of how quickly you can go from idea to webinar launch. By mid-December, we had sold over $57 million of that product. All of this was done through webinars. From scratch, we generated almost $250,000 worth of leads. We closed 6.42% of them on a product that at its cheapest sold for $2,500. One of our campaigns had 50,970 people registered for the webinar, and we sold 3,518 of them at $2,500 or more per pop, and we spent less than $4,000 in total on advertising. Would you like to know how we did this? I will break it down for you. In this campaign, I unleashed the single greatest marketing strategy I know. It's a strategy no one else seems to understand except me. I've used it multiple times with many clients to launch brand new products out of thin air, without hundreds of areas, without logos, without even a name for the products, and crush it. And all of these secrets are available in this book. You sign up with the URL that you see on your screen. And then there's the bonuses. There's a one-on-one 30-minute consult with me. Smart people like that will be lots of money for consulting because I'm worth it. My eyes on your stuff give you the difference between no money or a little money and a lot. Now, I don't make a lot of consulting available. A small part of what I do, so I'm very solid. And it's crazy because I don't even advertise my consulting. So I'm going through word of mouth people like me who pay me about it. I just recently did 2 paid consults in a single week. The first one was Damien here, who said this at the beginning of the consult. He said, when I first started using your system, I went from a 3% close rate to a 28% close rate. Second client I did was Roman, who teaches Russians how to do interior designing. I can't make this up. He says, I think I made like $1 million in pure profit based on what he learned from me on webinars. And he said, it's the best investment I've ever made in my entire life. As you can see, my rate is $3,125 an hour. So why then would I give you a half an hour of my time as a free bonus when you sign up for Go webinars? Here's why. It's simple. When clients use my stuff, they make lots of money. And then some of those clients bring me opportunities. And this is like the opportunity we had here that did a lot of money in a short period of time. So the more I help my clients be successful and the more I'm aware of them, the more potential deal flow that I get. Which is why this bonus works like this. After you sign up today on the URL on your screen, once you implement my webinar strategies on a brand new webinar, as soon as that webinar does $25,000 in sales, then you can redeem your 30-minute consultation with me for free. This is me incentivizing you to succeed as fast as you possibly can. I am offering you the most precious resource I have, which is my time. I do this to motivate you to make money as fast as possible. And that's why this is an absolute steal of a deal. The consult alone is worth more than the entire special investment deal you have when you sign up at the URL on your screen. And I got another little extra special bonus for you as well, since you stayed here with me on this webinar. And it's called the Rapid Webinars software. Once you get good at webinars, your next step is to automate them. Automated webinar is one that feels live to the attendee, yet is pre-recorded, meaning you only have to do the webinar once, and it can make sales for you over and over and over again. That's easier said than done, though. Most people who try to automate webinars, they fail at them miserably, because what matters more than anything with an automated webinar is not the presentation, it's the software that you use. And I got bad news for you. Every existing webinar automation software on the market right now just sucks. It just sucks. They're not good, which is why we're building our own as we speak. When it's done, pricing will start at $99 a month. It will start there, and there will be higher tiers of it. I'm going to give you the full experience of it for you to use for 3 months for free when you sign up here today. Now, let me tell you this, the software isn't done yet. When it's done, we will release it to you. That's when your 3 months of free usage of the software starts, and you'll love the software because we make it so easy. It basically works like this. You log in, you put new webinar, you name the webinar, give it a headline and a subheadline. It automatically builds your funnel for you, which you can run as is, or you can customize it further. You decide on your webinar schedule, you connect it to your offer, you then upload your webinar, you tweak the emails if you wish, though they're great as they are, and then you click publish. It is that simple. I am underselling the value of this software intentionally today, because once this thing hits the market, we're going to get so many paying customers right out of the gate. So I don't want to give too much of it away for free. I'm only offering this to you as a free bonus today. I'm so excited because the software is almost finished, and I can't wait to get some of you to the buzz for the public. So take advantage now, because we will yank this last out of the offer today. Sign up at the URL that you see on your screen. And when you sign up, you also get the same day here. I'm so confident Go webinars will make you 10K in a short period of time that if it doesn't, I'll either pitch your product for you or I'll make the difference up out of my own pockets. What I mean is this: as long as you meet a few simple conditions, you can make $10,000 at the very least in the next 90 days. Here's how it works. Sign up, go through the training, create a webinar following my structure, present the webinar live at least 3 times in the next 90 days using our replay funnel. Then if you don't make $10,000, I'll either pitch the product and get it there, or I'll cover the difference as I know. Meaning as long as you follow my advice, which is what you do, if you're going to make money, it doesn't matter. Now, once you read the full details of the guarantee, you can see I only ask the minimum from you. I'm essentially asking you one webinar. I wish you would do more, but I'm creating a low bar here. I'm asking you only sell a product for at least $297. Now you could sell it for more, but I'm making the bar so low that anybody can feel like they can make a go at this. By the way, it doesn't have to be your product. You could sell somebody else's product as long as it's $297 or more, and as long as you do 3 webinars within the next 90 days. You can qualify for this guarantee. Read the specific details so you best understand it at the URL below if this is something you want to shoot for. I want you to shoot for it because I know when you work the way that I'm asking you to work, even doing the bare minimum, the chances of you being successful that I can make. I'm making sure because I know if you haven't signed up yet for one reason, you're a failure. That's the only thing stopping you. Most people are so worried that something might go wrong that they end up doing nothing. Let that be your competition, okay? For you, I know that there's a strong chance that as long as I can get you to even half-ass a webinar using my structure, you can be successful. So this is me getting you going. Most of you who try for this guarantee, you won't end up needing it because you'll do more than 10K. However, on the off chance that somehow you screw it all up, I'll pay you just for the attempt because I know you'll become successful in the long term anyway. You need dope webinars in order to do it. That's what I'm getting you to do here today. The trick is just getting started. I now have offered you a path to start that as long as you do the minimum, success is certain. Now, full details of the guarantee are at the URL that you see on your screen. I'm happy to answer any questions about it as well as anything else we discuss here today to help you with making the right decision and going and signing up at the URL that you see on the screen before you. Now, I am here to answer any other question related to that guarantee or what have you of what we covered here today to help you make the decision because we do have a very limited time on this offer and then it will absolutely expire. So I think, Will, you're here right now. This is my business partner who's been looking at the chat. Will, if you're there, let me know.
I am, Jason. Thank you for the amazing examples and content. Get a lot, and I mean a lot, of thank yous and kudos and lots of appreciation from folks that are watching live. Got some great questions here. A lot of questions related to will this work in insert the business model here, like
Yes.
SaaS, business to business. Will it work in Latin America or other countries and other continents in the world? And I've been responding in the chat that we have customers in 132 countries so far, probably more by now. The last time we counted 132 countries. Can you address that generically and specifically at the same time?
I actually can because I've had experience with doing this on webinars, right? So this will work in any market where people are willing to educate themselves to make a better purchasing decision. And so I think that covers almost everybody. Think about it this way. I'm going to give you an interesting insight. Steve Jobs, when he sold this iPhone, what did he use to sell it? He used a keynote presentation. That's essentially a webinar. Jobs did a webinar before there was such a thing as a webinar to sell a phone. Warren Buffett, a lot of people aren't aware of this, but he kicked off his career by doing in-person seminars. If Warren was starting today, he would use webinars because he educates people in advance to help them make a better decision, and then he gives them the opportunity to buy something from him. Every really great market maker does that exact same formula. And the webinar will allow you to do that. Now, if you have an offer that doesn't need much education before somebody can buy it or not, then you don't need a webinar. But why would you want to sell products like that? Those are typically products with low margins. Those are typically products that people buy impulsively that don't really have much of an impact on their life. Those are the types of products that you can make that can completely make the dent in the universe. So if you have any product where a better informed consumer will make you more money, then the webinar is the perfect example of that. What I'm most excited about, Will, is the rest of the world is catching up. So the US typically leads the way in innovation, and then later on other countries catch it up. So I've went across the world. I've keynoted in Germany 2 different times at the largest marketing event that exists there. I just got back from keynoting in Brazil in front of 5,000 people, businesses over there. And I'm invited, and I'm going to be speaking to Colombians later this year at the biggest conference for people in Colombia who are entrepreneurs on webinars. My clients include the who's that lead the way in webinars in all of Latin America, and even in Spain and Portugal, which are Latin-ish but not American-ish. So what we're discovering is, because the internet now makes it easier to reach everybody, whether organic or through paid ads, webinars are more valuable today than they've ever been. It's just that people don't know how to use them correctly. So, Will, we've sold millions of dollars in SaaS. That's how the Rapid Crush started as a software company, mind you. We've sold services, we've sold products, we've sold physical products, we've sold digital products. If you are in a space where somebody can better understand what they should buy, then oh my God, webinars are going to be your very best friend. Well, I'll do you one better. If somebody went through this course, wrote the webinar, and then threw it in the trash and never did a webinar, best investment they could ever make. Because the thinking you have to go through in order to create the webinar based on how I train you will give you insights in every other area of your business. They will make you stronger in every area of your business. When Alex said it was the best course on persuasion he'd ever seen, and this is a guy who's going to be a billionaire pretty soon. Persuasion, you will pick that up through osmosis automatically. So anything you're doing, this is going to help you do it better, especially when you compare the small investment it's required to do it better. I think you know what to do.
Yeah, that's right, Jason. I always tell folks that they shouldn't consider this, that the biggest disservice they will make to themselves is looking at this as a webinar only training, because there's so much psychology, persuasion, marketing, sales technique, copywriting. I mean, you name it in the world of marketing, and it's included in this course, right? You focused on webinars in this course because that's what the training is about. But if you are paying attention as you go through the program, you're going to learn things that are going to be useful no matter what you do in sales and marketing.
So I'm going to interject there. That was past amazing. So when you go to the link, here is the next step of his process. The greatest of all time training of all time from the world's undisputed #1 webinar expert who will show you how to replicate the series responsible for $500 million in webinar sales, even if you have no experience, no product, and no audience. So Jason Fladlien, he gives the framework, he provides the testimonials to show that he is actually someone that you should listen to. And the key thing is about his 14-step webinar framework, he utilized it in the training today to be able to help people with clarity. He gave bonuses, he gave proof, Dylan Frost in regards to his formula. He provided the influencing of Russell Brunson. He talked about Alistair Mosley. He brought up Bob Proctor. Why wouldn't you listen to the greatest of all time? In the course that I did to be able to introduce you all to Jason Fladlien, now I have to call it the $500 million man, greatest of all time. is it's like not listening to Michael Jordan, who's the greatest all time in basketball, but try to buy a basketball from someone and learn from someone that just bought a basketball from Walmart. So he has the key people that if you're trying to build your billionaire brand and with webinars, how to do it. And then he has the bonuses that back up and has his own software coming soon, Rapid Webinars, which of course is going to be a competitor to CCC Elevate U. We'll do a comparison within the two. But the great thing is about being able to have a model and a roadmap and an opportunity to see whether or not this makes sense for you is doing the work. There's nothing around that part. And that's the key thing that I noticed, you know, even with the launch of CCC Elevate U AI webinar software, Stefan Cincianto made it easy in regards to leveraging AI with the process. But just look at these frequently asked questions. Do I need a webinar? If you sell something that doesn't have a sales cycle beyond an impulsive yes or no, a webinar will be most likely wasteful. If your product does benefit from providing value with an educational context to the customer, the webinar will only get in the way of the sale. No need to have pomp and pizzazz around surrounding your product or services. Skip the webinar. However, you'll find that in most businesses, especially ones that truly offer meaningful products and services, the webinar is the tool to use. So when you can condense the sales cycle of cold to sold down to a couple of hours, you're basically printing money. And you're able to understand learning these steps and understand their structure and strategy. That's the key part of building and growing with someone called Jason Fladlien. So what I've done is I've created an actual step-by-step course of, and this video will be included in that course, to be able to organize the content. It's simple and easy from someone that has already done it. So Jason Fladlien, the greatest of all time webinars and $500 million of webinar sales. And so that's the key part, that when you go to launch your AI webinar like a billionaire, we talk about the framework step by step of the 14 steps that he just displayed in regards to this course. And this way of action is going to help leverage the live virtual conversations with Adrian Mays that's held on Tuesdays at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And the whole purpose of those conversations is just to have real talk, real stories, and real results with coaches, entrepreneurs, CEOs, creators, people that are building their billionaire brand along the way, but to be able to understand their story and their authentic story. And that's the AI Cash Story method. So when you realize the upcoming lives that we have, Coach Alex English, NBA Hall of Famer, NBA coach, August 12, 2025. Joseph English, CEO of Spooky Action AI, on August the 19th. August 26th, Robert Gardner, owner of STP Trucking, in his story. September 2nd, Zuri Mayberry, model, speaker, coach. And September 9th, my business partner, Inika Gaines, the tax extraordinaire and the owner of Smile Don't Blink Photo Booth. Your AI cash story is one play away. So the great thing is when you learn and leverage from the best and getting in preparation for August 12, 2025, Coach Alex English, and being able to have your story told clearly and outlined and having framework. And that's the framework that I'm going to take into Tuesdays in regards to answering any questions after our special guests that we have appeared. So the great thing about having someone in the trenches with you, Adrian Mays, your AI cash story captain, I'm here. I'm going to help you grow. I'm going to help you build as long as you want to build as well. So one of the things that stood out to me in regards to the presentation today is to have a hook, pain, excite, position, shift, transition, and then close. And this will work in any type of business that wants to build and grow their brand with webinars. CCC Elevate U, we are going to help people change the world with AI and webinars and being able to grow and build your billionaire brand along the way. So I am